G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now, if you love me as much as I love you, you know what to do. Mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Steve Irwin would a crocodile. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down to the comments too. Now, with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good content. PhD student being accused of plagiarism, only that it's my own work that I used. Massachusetts. So I received an email earlier this week from someone in the committee that handles scientific misconduct at my university. The email asked me to meet her to discuss a potential problem with my thesis. I attended the meeting today, and she said that there are 7 instances that I've committed plagiarism. I insisted that it isn't true and asked her to present me the evidence, and she did. All of those 7 instances are of me using sentences from my own prior work. 5 are from papers that I have already published, and 2 are from my own master's thesis. She also said part of the source code I used, where the original author was not properly credited. Again, I wrote the code myself, and the original author she is referring to is me. After all of my explanations, she was still insisting that this is unacceptable and violating the proper scientific conduct guidelines of the university. At the end of the meeting, she said that she wasn't convinced by my answer and is going to request a formal investigation by the committee, and she said that I should be prepared for an unfavorable verdict. I should add that I recovered the entire conversation and listened to it again. At 3 points, she used the term "you people" or "your people", referring to me being Asian and not understanding plagiarism properly. I'm not the sort of person who accuses people of racism where they are critical of my work, but as she's used my ethnicity as part of her judgment of my work there, I don't know, it just sounded weird. What's the next step for me? Do I need to see a lawyer here, or should I let the investigation do its job and wait for their response? Edit: Universities' guidelines do not include anything about self-plagiarism. Their definition of plagiarism specifically mentioned using someone else's work. Plagiarism aside, I should also add that I recovered the conversation and listened to it again. Did you get consent? Massachusetts is an all-party consent state. If you didn't get her consent, I would not mention it in any meetings. It'll backfire on you big time. And he says, yes, I did. You are awesome. Brilliant. I work with a lot of STEM PhD students in the UK. There is a bit of controversy over what constitutes self-plagiarism. Although I think if a few copied sentences were spotted in a thesis, then the student would be asked to normally sort it out and resubmit. So then I wonder what you mean by instances and sentences. If it is just single sentences or a couple of sentences, then a committee seems a bit over the top. Although it would be prudent for you to politely apologize and offer to correct it ASAP. Of course, you can get all litigious if you like, but I don't see how that will do you any favors over a simple correction. If we are talking about copy and pasting large sections, i.e. whole paragraphs, etc., of your papers into your thesis, then I think that would be considered by most to be obviously dodgy, by most academics I know. I would then take the approach of apologizing profusely for the misunderstanding and offering to correct ASAP. I would only fight on the technicality of the plagiarism definition if you are otherwise going to be kicked out or something. Even if you win that argument, you probably don't want to make that kind of noise about something that will generally be considered inappropriate, especially if you are considering a career in academia. Apologies if this is more educational advice than legal advice. And they say a total of 7 sentences, 53 words combined, out of a thesis of 95,000 words. Heck, that's not even that much, is it? And now, update. PhD student here being accused of plagiarism, only that it's my own work that I used. So I posted earlier about a plagiarism situation with the university in my PhD thesis. To make it short, a few sentences in the thesis was too similar to what I had said in a couple of my papers and my master's thesis. This wasn't a direct copy and paste, and it was 7 sentences, 53 words, out of my thesis which was over 95,000 words. Last week, I got an automated email that an investigation had been started on the recommendation of the person that I talked to. The email explained that in case scientific misconduct is found, I will have a chance to defend my case to the board, and the board will decide what to do, which vary from a simple revision and resubmission to presenting the case to the disciplinary committee for a serious offense. I asked for appointments with a few people, head of the department, dean of students, and a head tutor to ask for advice. I haven't managed to see any of them yet. Today I received an email that the investigation is over and they have found no evidence of misconduct or plagiarism. They apologized for the stress that this has caused. A little later, I received another email from the head of the committee personally apologizing for this mess, and explaining that the officer who I talked to had gone fishing rather than doing the standard practice, which is not the policy. So that's that. Now I can graduate in peace. I cancelled the appointments and decided not to pursue the potential racism situation as there's no point anymore. Thanks for all advice. God, that's one of the most anticlimactic stories on here that I've read, but I'm really happy for them. I still really would want to see them going after the potential racism, but what can you do? And now, Scared and Want to Leave says, I'm pregnant and I want to leave my husband. I have been married for 5 years, and this is my second pregnancy. I took the test yesterday, and I think I am about 6 weeks. I had a late miscarriage last time, and the pregnancy was awful. I was very sick. I do not want to be pregnant. My husband found the test, and when I told him I don't want to be pregnant, he said he will not give me permission to have an abortion, and it is fraud for me to get one without him. If I try to leave, he will have me arrested for kidnapping. He said I do not have a valid reason to not want to be pregnant anymore. I've been wanting to leave for some time now and to go to stay with my parents. I cannot use any of the money in the bank for this because they are joint accounts and I do not have my husband's permission. However, I also have a debit card from a joint account with my mother that my husband does not know about. My questions are: 1. Is my account with my mum also marital property that I could get into trouble for using without his permission? 2. How likely is it that I will get in trouble if I go to New Hampshire, where my parents live, from Kentucky, where I live now, and lie and say I don't know who the father is, so I can get an abortion? I know it may be illegal, but I am willing to risk it. I can't handle another pregnancy. Thank you in advance for your help, and please don't judge me. And the moderator says here, this is a reminder that how any of us feel about legal abortions is off topic here. Stick to the law as it is, and not how you wish it was. And on that same line of reasoning, just sending moral support to OP is also off topic. This is a legal advice sub, so we're going to keep it on topic. Okay? Okay. So they say spousal consent isn't required in any state. Such laws have been found to be unconstitutional. The source of the money is irrelevant. Do what you must do for you with regards to the pregnancy. Also, you cannot kidnap a fetus. Your husband is demonstrating classic controlling and manipulative practices, and you should not be taking legal advice from him. On Monday, start talking to divorce attorneys. They say the money in the joint account with your husband is perfectly legal for you to access. He has no rights to the money in the joint account with your mother. You do not need his permission to get an abortion, and even if the baby were already born, there is no such thing as a parent being arrested for kidnapping their own child, unless there is a custody order in place. Custody orders can't be issued until after a child is born. Your husband is exhibiting classic abusive behavior. Get your ID documents and get to a woman's shelter now, if possible. Take out half the money from the joint account. The shelter should have resources to help you make further arrangements, which is lawyers, ensuring your phone is clean of trackers and spyware, and access to abortion. Don't know any shelters? National Domestic Violence Hotline is 800-799-SAFE. Quick web search shows Kentucky is one of the most restrictive states regarding abortion. Limit starting as early as 11 weeks, ban after 20. New Hampshire is very liberal. No waiting period, no maximum on gestation. Your abuser is in Kentucky, your support system is in New Hampshire. Head out there and abort, carry to term, indicate father unknown, and surrender the baby to the safe haven law, up to 7 days after birth at any hospital, police station, or specific other locations. or raise it as a single mother. Edit. One thing that comes up frequently in this sub is do not take legal advice from your opponent. They will lie and advise you to do things that benefit them. Jesus, that is so hairy. Anyway guys, here is the update. Hi everyone. I want to take a minute to say thank you to everyone who gave me advice and words of encouragement. I read every single comment on both threads about my situation, and I really appreciate the support and help. If not for the advice here, I probably would not have felt justified in leaving. I'm sorry for taking so long to post, but I am now back home in New Hampshire with my parents. I feel like I'm coming out of a fog, and I feel really stupid for believing everything. I guess I just justified it by assuming laws were different in the South. I left with just my computer, my phone, my documents, and a few family heirlooms. I'm not concerned about my phone being tracked, as I'm still on my dad's phone plan. My husband has sent about 200 texts and has filled my voicemail completely, but I haven't spoken to him. I managed to withdraw half the balance of the 2 out of the 3 joint accounts. The third is a local bank, and I did not want to stay in the area any longer. My parents told me just to leave the money. They are going to help me get the medical procedures I need, and then they are going to help me pay for a divorce attorney. I thought they would say I told you so, because they told me not to get married. But they have been very supportive and even offered to pay for me to go back to college and finish my degree. Thank you all for all your kind words. And our last one, I'm pregnant and I want to leave my husband. Update again. Hi everyone. I'm not sure if anyone remembers my first posts, which I made almost a year ago, but I wanted to come back and update because I got a few PMs, and I just officially finalized my divorce. I got back to New Hampshire, got the medical procedure I needed, and finished up my last few credits. I finally moved out of my parents' house, and I'm starting a career in September. Thanks to my lawyer, I only had to go back to Kentucky twice to finalize my divorce. I only saw my ex then, and when he showed up at my parents' building right after I left. I only saw him for a minute before he got kicked out. He refused to sign the papers and contested me every step of the way for a while. I know this isn't the ideal solution, but I let him have basically everything in the divorce to keep it from being drawn out. That's basically it. My life is back on track, and I feel like I'm out of a fog. I want to thank you all again for your advice, which helped me get the ball rolling initially and kept me from staying in a miserable situation. Thank you all again. It's good to know that they had such a happy ending to that one. Anyway guys, on to our next story. Annie sold land around my house to a developer years ago. HOA formed and being forced to join it and liens on my property. So long story short, today has been an absolute crap show. I can't even comprehend where to start. So my parents owned about 30 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, on the outskirts of town. My parents built their house in the late 80s, and that's where I lived my whole life. My parents passed away and I inherited the property, and it's all my land, or was my land. Back in 2005, this developer bought up a whole bunch of neighboring land and wanted to buy my land. I told him I was willing to sell 10 acres furthest from the house, the adjoining section to his neighborhood. He asked for 20 acres, and I told him that the second 10 acres would be 3 times the price, and he agreed, and we signed the paperwork, and he bought the land and I was paid for it. End of story. Or so I thought. The land sat empty for over a decade, since it took a while for him to sell the plots of land he made to homebuyers, and his company built houses. From about 2005 to 2012, the land sat empty and I didn't mind. I still mowed the grass and whatnot to keep it tidy, but never tried to take the land over or anything. By fall of last year, he had finished the entire area, and there's around 200 homes in that neighborhood. Because of that neighborhood, my 10 acres is now worth about 10 to 20 of what it was originally, and their HOA knows that. Since the September of 2017, I've had a bunch of angry letters and citations left on my property and in my mailbox. Some of them include having a barn larger than 7 by 7 feet. I have a 20 by 40 barn. Having abandoned vehicles on my property. It's a project car shell that I'm working on. I have the actual chassis in the barn, but it needs quite a bit of work. I bought an old rusted body and it sits outside and will continue to do so until I can deal with it. Having a non-conforming mailbox. Still no idea what the frick this is. Having the improper roof tiles. Again, no idea. I ignored them and told the HOA members that I'm not a part of their neighborhood and therefore have no reason to follow their bullcrap rules. The HOA says since my property values have gone up, I owed back dues from the date I sold my land, before there was even a single house built, and I have to correct everything on the list. The back dues are currently $10,200, but they state that if I don't pay back by December 31st, 2017, I will be charged interest that has accrued. Again, no idea where they are getting this interest from, but I do believe their HOA fees are around $750 a year. It'll cost me about $15,000 to $20,000 to fix my house. I think it's absolute bullcrap that they can even try to make me do so. So one, I went through all the documents I signed, and not a single document from the developer makes any mention of an HOA or my association with it. 2, I have no idea why the HOA is coming after me. I live almost half a mile away from the nearest house that belongs to the neighborhood. The entire neighborhood has its own little custom street signs and lamps. I don't have any of that, so how can they say that I'm part of the HOA? They say to either pay up or they will put a lien on my property and take it over. From what I understand, if I pay the $10,000, doesn't that mean I'm admitting guilt and be forced into the HOA? Update. So just had an hour-long discussion with the lawyer, and he went through all the documents. He asked if I was sure that was every document, and I told him it was. When I sold all the documents, I put them all in the same folder along with my taxes. He says that there is no chance I'm in the HOA since I didn't sign anything. He let them know that he'd be glad to send them a cease and desist letter to the HOA. I brought up adverse possession, and he suggested I don't pursue it since I want them to leave me alone rather than instigate anything bigger. So for now, he said not to pay anyone or sign anything. He'll mail out the C&D letter today, and he says if the HOA tries contacting me, I should just tell them to contact him instead. So I think I'm in the clear now. And now, continued. Sold land around my house to a developer years ago, HOA formed, and being forced to join it in liens on my property. So I met with a real estate attorney that was referred to me by a Redditor on here, and did the title search, and I'm in the process of trying to find the old developer's master plans. So far, here is what I dug up. I sold my land to developer A. He owned the land for about 2 years, and then filed bankruptcy and lost the land to the bank. That's when the maintenance of the land went to crap, and I was mowing it and taking care of it, cause the bank didn't care. Bank sold it to developer B, and that is the person that built the current neighborhood. We got in touch with developer B, and he said he was no longer part of the neighborhood, and in fact, the HOA is in charge of the entire area. His company just owned the lots, and they sold/built on them for the families, and they have zero say anymore. I asked him about the master plans, and if he thought he owned my remaining 10 acres, and he said absolutely not. The entire neighborhood sits on old land, plus the 20 acres that were purchased from in. So he was helpful, and it was clear he had no wrongdoing. I spoke to the lawyer to see if we could file an adverse possession on the land that I maintained, but he said it would be a waste of time and money. But I was just going to do it to spite the HOA. The title search and everything came up clean. It showed my parents as the previous owners, and then me. So no way they could have owned my land. The records go way back, and there is a clear chain of ownership, as my lawyer put it, and it's incontestable. We sent the HOA a cease and desist letter, as well as to stop contacting me unless they have actual signed documents that show I was part of an HOA. They never got back to me. I was out of town and came back last night to my mailbox missing. It was cut clear off the post with a chainsaw. Wooden post with a metal mailbox on top. I told my lawyer this, and he says that it is a big deal and that USPS would send the person to jail. I repurchased an identical mailbox and set up cameras all over the property. If they try it again, I'll have them on tape. But the biggest thing we uncovered was that we found out what they are planning. Turns out that the HOA wants to put in another community playground and a pool/clubhouse, and they need land. They can't expand in any other direction since they're almost on the end of a highway on one side and the other sides are zoned for agriculture. They decided they would try to take over my land. They have yet to file a lien on my property, so I'm guessing they were trying to force me into the HOA to make me sell them my land below market value? Either way, they showed their hand and now I'm on alert. We filed a complaint with the police regarding the stolen mailbox, and we have a paper trail for that now. It is just a waiting game to see what they do next. Should I send them a letter saying that I know their plan and there is no way they can get my land? They have their monthly meeting every second Tuesday of the month, so it's in a few days, and I'm sure I'll be a topic of discussion. Should I go to it? Don't engage. Contact them only through the lawyer and do not go to the meeting. I know you're angry, but they're trying to upset you to the point of leaving. Don't engage and make yourself into the bad guy. Also, having only contact through your lawyer creates a very clear paper trail, and they can never say you promised something you didn't. I asked my lawyer if I should go to their meeting, and he said absolutely not, and all communication should go through him. I just didn't know if he said that to raise his fees, but it seems like everyone agrees that my lawyer should handle it, so I'll let him deal with it. It's not that he wants to raise his fees, it's to protect you. Especially since some of your neighbors are escalating to harassing behavior considering they stole your mailbox. If you went to the meeting and they egged you into making angry statements, they could go to the police and claim that you threatened them, which would then start a paper trail on you. By working solely through the lawyer, you're recording all of their misdeeds and showing that you're operating within the law. So if it ever comes to a lawsuit, you can prove that you've always been on the up and up. Don't let them drag you down to their level in the mud. And our last update. HOA towed away my car and built a chain link fence on my land. So this is part 3 and most likely the final update for now. So I was away for the holidays and came back on Monday to find my project car was towed out of my driveway, my pond was emptied out and filled with gravel and sand, and a fenced off 2 acres, 2 chains by 1 furlong of my property closest to the HOA. I immediately called the police and filed a report regarding the stolen property. The car wasn't registered and it was just an empty shell, so I have no idea where it is, nor will it be easy to track. It's not worth a lot, maybe $2,500, but it's the principle of that jerk president of the HOA. I had my lawyer draft up the cease and desist and sent it nearly 2 weeks ago, and they haven't contacted me in any way except this. I hired a local salvage company to come tear up the fence this weekend, and they are doing it free of charge, since I'm letting them keep the fence to sell as scrap metal, or whatever they do with it. My lawyer suggested I send up a letter demanding payment to fix my pond, as it was filled in with gravel and sand. A local landscape company quoted me nearly $8,000 to get the pond back to the way it was, so that is what he suggested I ask, and another $2,000 for the loss of use of the pond. The HOA is lawyered up, so I think it's best no longer to post anything else on here until it's settled. I don't want to leave you all without some closure, since you all have been amazing help. I've put a picture of the layout since a few people asked. It's bad, but should convey the land. Oh boy. More Microsoft Paint, yes! Beautiful. Oh, I didn't realize that the HOA was so close to his house. What the hell? Whoa. I thought it was like, a mile down the road or something. It's like literally right there. Good stuff. And our last story, guys. This is a bit of a doozy. My ex has nude photos of me and threatens to send them to my current partner. Oh no. Can I do anything? So I sent my ex and father of my kids risque photos pretty often when we were together. When we broke up, I deleted all of his permanently and requested he do the same. I thought he had. We are currently in the middle of a custody issue and he is not handling it well. Between me not doing everything that he wants me to do, and coming down from relapsing on heroin for over a month, he is not in the best mental state. This is unlike him. This morning, he sent my current partner old pictures, 2+ years, and attempted to convince him they were recent. Luckily, there are some pretty noticeable differences between the pictures and how I look now. I am wondering if I have any legal recourse here. I want the pictures off his phone, and I want to make sure that he has not and will not post them anywhere or share them with anyone else. Are there any laws in PA or precedents that say what he did was somehow illegal? Thank you in advance. This sucks, but the easiest thing to do is notify your attorney and notify the family court judge of this behavior. There may be other legal remedies in PA for this, but how many different ways do you need to stop your ex? My biggest concern is making sure he deletes the photos and any others he has saved up. A lawyer won't scare him enough to do that. Honestly, the police are still a 50-50 chance. He isn't in the best state of mind right now, obviously. All more reason to notify your attorneys of the pictures and potentially provide them as evidence to keep your kids away from him. I know it's easier said than done, but I would try to remember that regardless of what he chooses to do with the photos, you have done nothing wrong and you have nothing to be ashamed of. There is nothing wrong with sharing intimate photos of yourself with someone you love and trust. Your body is nothing to be ashamed of, nor is being in a sexually active relationship. The only person who has done anything wrong is him. He has abused your trust and done something really despicable, which does nothing more than demonstrate the sort of person that he is, not the person you are. If he sends the pictures to anyone else, just remember, there is nothing wrong with photos of your naked body. There is everything wrong with what he has chosen to do with them. They said, that just made me tear up. Thank you for reminding me of all that. I needed to hear it. Logically, I know better than to be embarrassed about the photos being sent. Emotionally, I am not on that level yet, so having my current partner see photos meant for a previous partner threw me into a little emotional upheaval. Thank you so much, I really needed that. And on to our next update. My post was not hugely popular, but I have a small update. Thank you to everyone who commented on my previous post. I read all of them, even the ones I didn't reply to immediately. I called the police last night. An officer came out to my house. He read the messages, saw the photos, and said, yeah, that's illegal, and I don't think it gets much easier to prosecute than this. He had my fiancée send him screenshots of everything, and then the photos separately. He took my ex's information, our information, and the surprisingly ample amount of information I have on his girlfriend. My ex is currently on both probation and parole, so the officer is reaching out to his parole officer today for a current address, since he refused to provide it to them. He'll be calling my ex today, and if he hangs up on him or gets smart, he'll be prepared with an address to just go talk to him. He also knows where he is working this evening while the officer is on duty, so that is a last resort. He's also going to run the evidence and our statements by the DA's office today and get the green light to proceed with charges, which apparently will include an actual arrest once everything that needs to happen happens. I'm not clear on the details exactly, I just know that they are almost certainly going to be charging him with a misdemeanor or two. Additionally, I am almost positive that my ex's current girlfriend, who he has been with for roughly 9 months now, was involved in some manner. She is an RN, so if it comes to light that she was complicit, she could be also charged and lose her job. I don't know how it would impact her license as an RN, but I did work for the hospital she works for currently, and any charges, no matter how minor, result in termination. The officer confirmed this as well. And I took everyone's advice. I contacted my attorney. He is drafting a cease and desist letter to send to both my ex and his current partner. He is also going to request a copy of the police report to add to the already massive stack of evidence of reasons why he should not get custody of either of his kids. He should remain strictly on visitation if he is lucky enough to even get that. Thank you to everyone. I have a small amount of hope that this will work out favorably. My current partner doesn't care what he has to say or what pictures he sends. He sees it every day. He also knows that my ex is vindictive and is grasping at straws in an adult temper tantrum. Hopefully, this will end the years of this crap from my ex, as this is not the first partner he has done this with. It's just finally a charge in PA. And our last update, guys, there's an update too. Well, this is a pretty lackluster letdown of an update. I finally heard back from the police officer who took the official report. He said that the DA was declining to press charges, and I'm devastated. Essentially, when the officer spoke to my ex, he claimed that he did not send those pictures because I was nude, but only because he wanted to show my current partner the background to establish a timeline. That is stupid for a couple of reasons. First of all, the first picture he sent, I was at work, at my current job. I've been here for 4 years, and much of that time I was dating my ex. So that picture proves absolutely nothing. Second, the second picture he sent was taken in the bathroom of a house I rented prior to meeting my current partner, and while still dating my ex. He was even there when the lease was signed, so again that proves nothing for the supposed timeline he was trying to establish. From what the officer was told, my ex's word was that he didn't send those pictures because I was nude, but because of the background, is what tipped the scales in his favor. The DA said that there is no intent to disseminate those photos because of what my ex claims was his reasoning. I don't understand that either, considering he did disseminate them. He sent them to my partner. I'm still confused about the logic there. The kicker in all of this is that I have proof via cell phone records of all of my own that I sent my ex other pictures in the same time frame that were not nude, that had the same background as the nude photos he sent. It is very frustrating for me that the DA didn't even take that into account. The officer attempted to elaborate on the situation and explain that there was additional evidence that could be gathered from my cell phone carrier that would absolutely destroy my ex's claims, but he got nowhere. I have attempted to call the DA's office myself, and they have yet to return a phone call. They are obviously not interested at all. There was a case tried in my state for a situation that sounded eerily similar to mine, but the DA in my county doesn't want to bother. Sorry this is a crap update, and sorry for the lack of justice boners. I'm pretty devastated, and I feel very let down. I know there isn't anything I can do at this point. My lawyer is still obtaining a copy of the police report to use in our custody case, but without any charges filed, I doubt it will hold much weight. We have a child support conference last week. He lied about his income and where he worked and what hours, so he managed to get out of paying a fair amount. He was high during the conference. He came in and used the bathroom while my mum and I sat there. Hopefully the custody isn't as big as a letdown as everyone else has been so far. Thanks for your help, everyone. We tried. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. That was a long one. It's taken a lot out of my breath, but I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to see you in the next episode. Tell me what you thought about everything down in the comments. As always, I do love your faces. And I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.